We're back at the gaggle. Rick and I are at the agenda table, and we have a number of questions that have been submitted to us. So just for clarity's sake, I'm going to read the actual question, and Rick will do most of the response, and we'll try to get through these as quickly as possible. Larry Higgs from the Ledger has asked, how many Port Authority employees have been tested positive for coronavirus? What's the breakdown by facility? And then he goes on to say how many of them interact with the public, and how many of those have been told to shelter in place. And the last part of his question is, are there service reductions considered in PATH since the MTA has reduced service? The last part of the 7-part question for Larry is, how is the cashless tolling working on the Hudson River crossing? So, Rick, I know you answered both of these already in your direct report.
All right, so let me try to go through them quickly. Just to repeat, 23 Port Authority employees overall have tested positive. 13 employees are awaiting test results. 331 employees are currently self-quarantining, and 164 employees who were previously quarantined have returned to service. I do not have a breakdown by location. A significant percentage of these were Port Authority Police Department officers, and I would say there were very few that were directly interacting with the public in any close or sustained way. I went through the question was how many have been told to shelter in place. We don't use that term. What we have done is to respect the directives, the elements of the emergency orders. As I said in the report, more than 3,000 employees are working remotely. All of the other employees are being subject to the techniques that I identified in terms of working alternate shifts, coming in at different times, maintaining social distancing. Most of these are employees who are on duty in operation centers and maintenance centers, and they have all utilized the social distancing, various techniques to assure that there is not any degree of close or sustained contact. With respect to PATH, as I reported, weekday PATH ridership this week has fallen compared to levels of last year by approximately 90%. Due to that change, we are examining plans for a modified weekday service schedule, but we are focused on two parameters. First, a schedule that will enable passengers to maintain a safe social distance of 6 feet or more. But secondly, we want to continue to provide reliable service for the essential workers in the region, and we will be making that decision in the very near future. Final question was, how is cashless tolling working on the Hudson River crossing? It is working well. We were positioned in terms of having license plate readers in position at the cash lanes. And so what that means is that while the booths are still there, the toll collectors obviously are not. We are utilizing readings from the license plate readers to send toll by mail bills. There will be no administrative charge. There will be no variance whatsoever from the cash toll that would otherwise have been paid.
All right, Rick, next question from New York Times, Pat McGeehan. The one question he has is regarding the COVID-19. How has it affected projects, especially LaGuardia? How much of the workforce has been affected, and how far has it set back the schedules for these projects?
Well, as I said, broad brush, construction has been identified as an essential sector. Therefore, all of the construction projects have moved forward. That includes LaGuardia. There have been temporary shutdowns, and this includes elements of the LaGuardia project. It's not across the board, but it is at various places. When workers have tested positive, there have been temporary stoppages. smaller or larger, to allow deep cleaning to take place. But these have been temporary stoppages, and the projects are continuing. We are assessing whether the difficulties of working in the COVID crisis environment is going to have any impact on schedule. So far, we are either maintaining schedule or close to it. Really impossible to predict the future.
And then, Rick, the other part, how the agency's finances been affected?
This is obviously an object of very intense focus. The impact depends very, very significantly on projections with respect to how long the emergency orders will be in effect, how long the recovery, how rapid or slow it will be. We are creating varying scenarios to understand what those have in terms of economic impact. We also have to understand what the net results of the federal legislation is. We've been following very closely, obviously, that legislation. I mentioned in my report the 4 areas that we've been focused on. And at this point, all of our analyses are very, very preliminary, but it is a major, major focus for the next period of time.
Thank you, Rick. The next question from New York Daily News, Clayton Gusa. Rick, how are you feeling? And wants to know if you can explain your recovery process. But I will tell you, having stood next to you, I don't believe there has been a recovery process.
Well, be careful, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Having stood 6 feet away.
Yes. Most of it on the phone. But I will tell you, Rick, before you answer, since day one, you have been fully engaged. And I will tell you, as hard as it is to imagine, you and senior staff have worked harder now in the last month than I think we've ever worked in the last 2.5 years. So there's been no recovery process for you, so to speak.
What I would say is I'm feeling fine. I've tested negative. I am fully back at it. In terms of the recovery process, or what's really the 2 weeks, I was in full quarantine for 2 weeks. I did not go outside. I did not leave my abode. I was on the phone for a huge percentage of that time, and maintained multiple conference calls in the course of the day, and tried to be as available as I possibly could. My wife frankly had a harder time than I did. I am pleased to say that her recovery is complete. She has tested negative. It is probably the longest period of togetherness, never leaving the same building that we have had during our marriage. But our marriage is strong, I'm happy to report, and I'm feeling fine.
The other question Clayton had was with regard to the positive cases, which you outlined in your report. I think he has that answer. And in terms of any capital construction work, has that been stopped or delayed as a result of the pandemic?
Well, I think I've answered that, which is that because construction has been designated as an essential sector, all of our construction projects have moved forward. There's no question that the challenges posed in terms of maintaining construction are significant, as they are every place. But safety precautions have been put in place at all of the projects in terms of social distancing, even in the context of construction, hand washing, hand sanitizer. Construction workers wear gloves in any event as a matter of their normal PPE. As I also mentioned before, there have been temporary stoppages affecting sectors of construction projects, sometimes smaller, sometimes larger, but all of the construction projects continue to move forward.
Eric Watkins from Lloyd's List has asked a number of very specific questions regarding the port. We're just going to have the port folks, Eric, reach out to you directly in the next few moments in terms of a blank sailing, which I know Rick has already answered, any downturn in containers, and a number of other specifics, but you'll hear back from our port people in the next few minutes. Moving ahead, Dana Rubenstein from Politico asked the following. Will the Port Authority provide financial relief to companies like OTG and Gate Gourmet that have treated their employees badly, or at least in the case of Gate Gourmet, if not also OTG, have a revenue sharing with the Port Authority?
Well, we are looking very intensely at all of our arrangements at the port. We recognize that everyone is dramatically impacted by the reduction in passenger volume. We are talking to the airlines. We're looking at concessionaires. We are concerned about airport workers, as frankly reflected by the board's action adopting a minimum wage policy. We have not reached decisions, but we intend to look. What I could say is we intend to look carefully at all of these issues as we discuss them with our partners.
Thanks, Rick. Another question from Jeff Palitzer, the Airport Voice. How will the public crisis impact the schedule of progress? His words, airport redevelopments, especially JFK.
That is part of our financial analysis. We need to look closely at all aspects of both our finances and our capital spending, and we will be doing that over the next very short period of time.
Thanks, Rick. Last question, Paul Berger. Tell us about potential plans to more severely limit flights at the region's airport, and are we making any plans for that? His words, eventuality.
Well, the question isn't quite. It's not really about severely limit flights. The fact is, with the passenger volume down, the flight volume down, what is going on at the airport is to understand how to continue to operate the airports in the most efficient ways possible. The key, one of the key aspects of efficient operation is to use the resources of the TSA and the CBP as efficiently as possible. So what is happening is airlines and the airports are looking at ways to consolidate, to operate out of what might be called common use terminals, where multiple airlines are coming into one concourse as opposed to multiple concourses. We're looking at all of those alternatives, talking with the airlines, talking with TSA, talking with CBP. But this is not about limiting flights. This is about utilizing the resources of the airport efficiently while these emergency orders are in place and while the airports and the airlines, everyone is experiencing these very significant passenger volume decline. But it is about emergency. It is about efficiency. It is not about limitation.
All right, thanks, Rick. Those are all the questions I have in front of me. Any other press inquiries, please pass them on to our press folks, and we'll be more than happy to get responses back as quickly as possible. I want to thank everybody for attending this gaggle.